Good afternoon, everyone. You have joined the Committee on Urban Redevelopment, Renewal, and Planning. Today is Thursday, April the 10th. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Chairwoman Mary Kay Harris,
Present.
Vice Chair Juan Pichardo,
Present.
Councilman John Gonzalez,
Present.
Councilwoman Althea Reyes,
Present.
Councilwoman Ana Vargas is absent. We have 4 present, 1 absent. We have a forum.
Beautiful. So today we're joined by Emily Freeman, Alyssa. Alyssa. I don't know why I keep wanting to call it, because I'm Alicia. Alyssa. And we have Carol Delgado. We also have a new, person, Robert. I'm sorry.
Baptista.
Baptista. We have our beautiful clerk, so I won't go name her name, that'll take all day. We have Ruth.
Yeah.
Ruth, what's your last name?
Cochia.
Cochia, City Solicitor. Thank you for joining us tonight. Madam Clerk, will you please read the first item into the docket?
Item number 1, communication from His Honor the Mayor dated March 28, 2025, submitting the Community Development Block Grant Budget for Program Year 2025-2026. The following has been invited for an overview. Emily Friedberg, Director of Housing and Human Services, Department of Housing and Human Services. Alicia McDermott, Director of Housing and Community Development, Department of Housing and Human Services.
Thank you. Let the record show that Councilwoman Ana Vargas is present.
So noted.
All right, you know, every year we get the opportunity to hear from our planning department. And right now is the opportunity to hear what this grant is all about. Any questions that the committee may have, or anything that you have that you feel very comfortable in asking Emily and Lisa, please do so. And this is a time when we turn it over to Emily to get us started on what this is, the communication.
Madam Chair, can we enter her handout into the record as an exhibit?
Appreciate you, Madam Clerk. Yes, what is this as entered as what?
Exhibit 1.
We may have a motion.
Motion to enter exhibit 1 into the record.
The motion made by Councilman Gonzalez, second by Councilwoman Graves. Into the record. Thank you. Welcome, Emily.
Good evening. I'm Emily Freeman, Director of Housing and Human Services.
Alyssa McDermott, Director of Housing and Community Development.
Pleased to join you this evening to present the proposed HUD entitlement grant budget on behalf of Mayor Smiley. I'm also pleased to introduce those of you who haven't yet had the pleasure of meeting Alyssa. Alyssa is our new Housing and Community Development Division Director at Housing and Human Services. We were very lucky to bring her in from Woonsocket to manage that division. She's a great example of the type of employee and talent we've been working to recruit in the department in its first year. Those sort of skillful public administrators with direct frontline service backgrounds. So she's going to be your primary point of contact in the latter part of this process for obvious reasons. So to give an overview of this budget, this is going to be the first year of investment under a new consolidated plan. So every 5 years, we are charged by HUD with updating our goals and objectives and priorities. So this will be a 2025 to 2029 consolidated plan. So what we are doing right now and have been doing is intensive community engagement, a detailed market and needs analysis, and the review and access, the review of our sort of access and barriers to fair housing here in the city. So after updating and establishing those needs, we're charged by HUD with them selecting the highest quality services to meet those priority community needs for the best price. So we, knowing that those sort of needs were obviously, you know, over a 5 to 10 year period have not changed. Affordable housing, basic needs, addressing homelessness, those are all still goals that resonate with our community and are still incredibly relevant. So we released our RFP, our notice of funding availability, in February, and we received almost 100 worthwhile proposals. So of course, we have some incredibly difficult decisions due to that tremendous level of ask and our limited availability of funding. Funding is anticipated to be reduced from the prior year as we are operating on now a federal continuing resolution, which effectively means that the top line budget figures at HUD have been copied and pasted and carried into FY 25. So best case scenario is we're looking at level funding, but more likely it's anywhere between a 5 to 10% cut by the time we actually receive those allocations from HUD. We have operated in this environment before. Very often we are developing this budget with a hypothetical allocation of funds. So we do have protocols and procedures that now allow us to get through this local budget process and establish our sort of list of priority activities, and then we do an equitable pro rata adjustment when we finally hear from the federal government our actual final dollar figures. Right now, that's tracking to look like mid to late May. So typically by the time the council has already passed it out, we will then need to make those final adjustments to reflect actual funding received. So in total, we received a staggering 20.5 million in requests. I think that's close to the highest figure we've received in my tenure here at the city. And about 12.3 million of that was in CDBG alone. And our job this year, and the outlook for our local nonprofits is going to be particularly challenging, as we all know, as we navigate the federal funding landscape that is changing daily. And so with that in mind, when the mayor crafted this budget with the input of staff, we identified funding essentially that's going to be for those services and activities that ensure that our most basic needs are met. So those are needs such as food and childcare, homelessness prevention and response, and refugee services, all of which are struggling right now to sustain their operations and baseline service delivery. We do not feel it was an appropriate moment, given the federal uncertainty, to explore things like pilots or new initiatives, given that we don't know the outcome of 26, 27, or 28. So when we also looked at facility and housing proposals, we recommended those that are addressing those critical operational barriers or concerns. So projects seeking, to improve their fire safety, to mitigate winter floods, and to generate new housing units that are going to serve our lowest income. And then I will turn it over to Alyssa to sort of walk through the mayor's budget if folks are prepared to move through the mayor's draft budget.
Yes. So when we were developing this budget, we decided to put, as Emily said, emphasis on clearly defined projects that are already ready to proceed. We were looking for a direct line between our CDBG investment and the eligible clients that are being served. A lot of the recommendations are direct service to low and moderate income clients or spaces that need to be improved that serve those clients as well. And all of the recommendations also clearly meet a national objective. So the goal, as you know, of this committee is to work collaboratively to get a budget into our final form, and then it will go for city council passage twice. The budget will then be incorporated into a final annual action plan to be put out for a 30-day public comment period, and then it'll be submitted to HUD for approval. We need to make sure that we have these steps completed and these approvals in place by July 1st to avoid any disruptions in services. So when looking at the budget, we do have some funds available remaining from previous years, and these are either due to projects that were not able to move forward, or even projects that were payment under budget. So that are as well as program income, and with those funds, we're able to reallocate into new projects this year. We do have some fixed expenses such as the admin percentage. This is set by OMB. And then we also have public services, which also have a percentage cap that can be served. Both the community centers and the public service fall under this cap, and the cap is about 1.069 million. We do have some economic development projects on there. A lot of these programs are for technical assistance and investments to serve low to moderate micro businesses or small businesses with the goal of job creation and retention. There is no cap on this category. We do have public facilities. These are for nonprofit or city-owned facilities that are open and available to the public. They must serve low to moderate income clientele, or they must be open to in a low to moderate income neighborhood. These are libraries, playgrounds, shelters, community centers, etc. And there's also, again, no cap on this category. And then moving forward, we do have the ward allocations. These funds are made available to identify eligible projects in each of your wards. Prior to passage from this committee, we will need to identify projects and incorporate this into the ordinance that we will bring to city council. I will be working with Kyle, and I know he's been in touch with many of you to try and identify these projects. And if you're ever struggling with any project ideas, the department directors would be more than willing to give you suggestions as well. Please let myself know, or Emily while she's still here, if we can assist or support you in any way. We are hoping to have these ward projects identified before the passage out of URRP committee at the end of this month. So we can build that into our annual action plan for HUD approval, and then pass it out by the docket deadline of May 9th. And then if you're looking at the continuing through the budget, we do have our home investment partnership program. We have 1.121 million for the development of affordable and rental homeownership housing. We do not define line items in this category because of specific home regulations. We are not able to identify project award amounts in the ordinance, because we will end up violating any home regulations set by HUD. We're not able to make any type of binding commitments with these funds until we have underwriting, subsidy layering, project assessment occurring first, and that's why there are no like specific line items in this category as of now. We also received a prepayment from a developer, which has been requested to be rolled into a new loan for the Lockwood Plaza 2 project, and that was also approved by this committee last year. And then we do have our emergency solutions grant funds. Those are in the amount of $450,000. Those are usually used for shelter operation, rapid rehousing, and other essential services. These funds are deployed through our Consolidated Homeless Fund Consortium. By being part of this consortium, we are able to meet the 100% non-federal match requirements. And it also helps us foster a continuum of shelter providers and services as well. And then lastly, we have our HOPWA, or Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, in the amount of about 1.4 million. These funds will be used for supportive services, tenant-based rental assistance, and project-based housing for people living with HIV and AIDS in Providence, MSA, which also includes Bristol County area as well. So when we were developing this process, we did have a really robust outreach process. We sent out a digital notice via our listserv email with any due dates, links to register for our webinar, as well as a link to the notice of funding availability. On that list, we have over 1,400 emails, and then all of you, the council emails are part of that list as well. We did post on the city website. We work with community relations as well as the mayor's newsletter. We also put a notice in the Providence Journal. We had an application workshop and Q&A in early February, which was recorded and also posted on the city website on the Housing and Human Services page. And then we also take applications through our web grant system. And in that system, anyone applying for these funds will get email reminders to complete and submit on time. The city, we have a well-established web-based application system for competitive pools of our CDBG funding, which is the web grant system. And all of these applications that are submitted are evaluated and scored by staff. And they are evaluated based on the following criteria: number of clients served, priority for equity and access, targeting areas of concentrated poverty and priority populations, any previous awards, past performance, and compliance with requirements, agency capacity and staff expertise for projects, conformance with the 5-year consolidated plan goals and priorities that were identified, evaluation of cost reasonableness and effectiveness. And prior to rating applications, our grantees must identify meet a minimum scoring thresholds before we conduct a further analysis on their application. And we are working collaboratively with the city council to shift to more impactful investments to boost program impact and efficiency. We are looking to prioritize transformational place-based projects that improve quality of life or service impact in underserved areas. And we also kept in mind any parallel funding opportunities such as city budget grants that these individuals already received, any opiate settlement funds, et cetera, when crafting our strategy to maximize leverage and ensure all of our key priorities are met. And I'll open up for questions if anyone has any.
Is there any questions from the committee? Councilman McDowell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. During the process, I'll take it backwards. During the process, the organizations that applied is not a requirement to meet with you first or come to a meeting.
We do not meet one-on-one typically during the procurement process. What we try to do is have it be as open and fair as possible, and so everyone is getting the same information. That said, 11 months out of the year, what we offer are if you've applied before and not been successful, or if you just simply want to meet with us, 11 months out of the year, we will take meetings with grantees and highly encourage it. During the application process, when that procurement is live, we typically will handle questions through the workshop. And then sort of any sort of addendum that might be necessary. And if they have technical questions on how to apply, things like deadlines, we certainly are answering those.
And those is not part of the scoring in terms of the engagement meeting.
We do not sort of mandate any meetings. What we do see and always encourage and why we communicate the opportunity to debrief is that for those organizations that continue to engage with us, we do see increases in improvement in their scoring year over year.
Mhm.
We can let them know, if there were any eligibility concerns, if there were missing pieces of their proposal, and give them an opportunity to, in the sort of off-season, prepare their application. And what we've tried to do is have very consistent application processes and questions so that year over year, folks are building capacity and knowing what to expect so that they can be improving their applications year over year. And for many that they have, taken advantage of those opportunities and greatly improved their scoring in their applications. And we see the sort of repeat applicants become more and more competitive as years go on, as they, really sort of tweak those proposals and make them as best as they can be.
Okay, well, thank you, Madam Chair. One more.
Continues.
On the home investment partnership program,
Yes.
the 1.165 million, is a wind debt rollover. Can you just explain that a little bit
Sure.
more?
So this is a little bit unusual. I don't know that as a committee, we've seen this before. Typically, when we are providing home funds to larger multifamily developments, we are providing them as permanent soft loans that remain on project for the term of affordability. In this case, when the owner of, this was associated with William Woods was the project, Wynn was selling it to another affordable developer, and so because there was cash associated with that transaction, they offered to prepay us and asked if it would be possible to then roll that into another soft loan from one of their projects that we approved for them last year. And that is providing a critical piece of gap financing for Lockwood Plaza 2. So that was an activity that we as a committee approved last year, but has not yet closed. And so by taking in this 1.165 million and lending it back out, that's enabling them to conduct another affordable project. So it's really sort of been a win-win for us. And we were approached proactively both the council office and the administration about this concept.
When you give out these loans, do we derive any interest from that?
On some occasions, we may get some degree of interest. I believe this did have interest associated with it. My recollection is it was originally a $765,000 investment, and over time, it grew to 1.165. So this was also a profitable investment for us. But typically, because we are a permanent lender and the sort of soft money in the project, we are typically not getting the same kind of interest or repayment terms as a bank providing the construction.
So the city gets it, but then reinvests it
We're
back
gonna
to,
reinvest it
it's
back.
not that the city can use that money for something else.
No, so in this case, it's considered what's called federal program income, so it has to go into our home local account and be used for other home eligible.
That was a great question, and as you know, that is in my ward. You guys last year supported phase one, which was the townhouses. This year, that would be the high rise, the mid rise they call it,
Mhm.
which is the bigger building. That's the second phase. And so, yes, this was brought to our council office to our work through the council and administration to have this happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a suggestion from them. So that was a great question because I never realized that when we do get the work, where does it go?
Mhm.
And it goes back into if it's coming from the home, it goes back into home.
Yes. Yes, so any federal funding that we have lent out, when it recycles back, it still has to be used for that same intended purpose. And typically, when it comes back in off cycle, that means we either need to do something like an action plan amendment or an ordinance amendment. In this case, the timing works to sort of address it through this process. And because we already have a pre-approved project that has a big financial gap that could close but for these funds, this actually works out very well in our favor to immediately be able to relent out.
Councilman Cass.
You, Madam Chairwoman. I just want to say thank you for your leadership and especially all the community engagement that we saw in the meetings. I know there was a lot of interest and there's more need out there this year than there's ever been before. I'm actually just very curious about the broader landscape of federal funding. I know a lot of organizations are particularly on edge. Particularly are organizations that are dealing with refugee response or have some kind of diversity, inclusion, or belonging element. What do you think the implications are, and how's your office navigating all of that?
It's definitely a very unusual moment and very concerning. There are very sort of clear targets where we're starting to see funds get rescinded. When we looked at this budget, we know right now, things like USDA, Medicaid, refugee services, all of those programs seem to be the ones that are getting pulled back and rescinded. And don't seem to have the same, because they're not necessarily direct congressional appropriations like something like CDBG is, they don't have the same legal protections. And so we are seeing organizations like Dorcas International, New Bridges, really sort of gravely impacted. Our food pantries, our free clinics are also all very concerned about what's going to happen in terms of cost. And so to Medicaid, which I believe 1/3 of the islanders are Medicaid clients, and many thousands of them are residents of Providence. So that is concerning. We have heard in terms of our HUD programs that we receive on an entitlement basis that the Senate is not looking to make cuts to home or CDBG, but the House is very much targeting those programs. We also expect that the president's budget will be released, I think, in late May, is also expected to target those programs. So we are, working through the National Community Development Association and other advocates and lobbyists to try to, make the case for these programs. And CDBG benefits Providence the same way it benefits Oklahoma City. I think there's not actually a political appetite to discontinue programs like this, but it does place us, sort of in a constant state of concern. And while the continuing resolution was effectively good news for us that we know we're all set through FY25, we don't have a good sense of what will happen in FY26 or 27 yet. So.
And I'm assuming there are some contingency plans in place in the event that some of that federal funding does get pulled back.
We are always trying to sort of think about, the big goal with the creation of the Housing and Human Services Office was to think about diversifying our funding streams. We know at the local level, and we'll present our FY26 budget to you all fairly soon. At the local level, local funding is a challenge. At the federal level, federal funding is a challenge. And so anywhere that we can be funding initiatives and priorities through an array of funds gives us a bit of sustainability so that we can continue to. And so here also what we've done we have, I think, some improved line of sight. Based on some internal reorganization here in the city, that we're looking at things like the opioid settlement funds that we know are coming on a consistent basis, and figuring out can we fund behavioral health and harm reduction and homelessness outreach through something like opioid settlement that we know is still going to be here and is not subject to the Trump administration or, the local levy. So we're trying anywhere we can to identify opportunities to diversify funding streams and think about where something could be as sustainable, funded as sustainable.
Thank you.
Is there any more questions from the committee?
Only want to say thank you because when I see here, I probably how almost how we receive the funds. I hope it's not cut out because so many people needing, hot meal. So, that's what I say.
Thank you for your comment. Is there anything else particularly you want to share? And again, I want to say thank you for acknowledging the robust outreach that they did to make sure that they reached a lot of people.
Yeah.
Is this the first year you went over and above?
So we try to have a robust process year over year, and the benefit, I think, is by being, what we've done to build capacity is try to have, we all collectively are working on an almost identical schedule every single year, and so that creates predictability and transparency for our nonprofit organizations. That's what, like clockwork in January, you will hear after the new year, hey, CDBG should be opening soon, when can I get an application? So we try to sort of have that transparent process and have robust engagement. We appreciate Kyle, was very helpful, also ensuring it was up on your social media and sharing with any of your priority organizations as well. We still, up until we submit to HUD, are still working on consolidated plans, so there will be a draft that will be shared with you all, which will have some updated data on local housing need and homelessness. And we will continue to be doing sort of community meetings and engagement throughout the process. So if you have more meetings where you would like to sort of take a look about the consolidation, we would absolutely welcome attending at any point.
Grant, trying to see, sorry, at this point, I would like to, we've talked a lot about Kyle, and Kyle have been very, very instrumental into making sure that our committee operates without a rolling form going on, or people directly trying to get me to commit to projects or whatever. We have been working really thorough through Kyle. Right now, we want to hear from Kyle, what his experience been, what you expect of us, and did we almost make 100 on our projects? I want to know that, because I like to be bragging.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Kyle Delgado, Director of Project Management for the Providence City Council Office. We are in a really strong spot with our ward allocations. We have about 12 of them out of the 15. So there are a few councilors that we have to confirm, but I've been in talks with all of them. So they're on the pipeline, and I think we are well ahead of the curve to be able to get 100% of them before we pass out the committee.
Thank you for your work and your how you guys are collaborating and working together and making sure that we are getting this funding out to the folks like Councilwoman Barbara said is important.
Absolutely. There's a strong team at HHS that does really great work, and they make the job easier. So we work well together. So really good done.
So we also want to hear the voice of Robert. So Robert, you're just coming in on the projects. Are you ready to grind like Kyle have been doing? Most of us hard-headed people, I was the one that always never had my project in.
I'm ready to grind and help everyone execute their projects and visions for their community. So I'm here. I'm definitely gonna be following up with every council person, especially the council people here. And seeing what they would like to do and how I can help them. And if you would maybe listen to some ideas.
Okay, that was good. And of course, we heard from Melissa, and she has done an amazing job of being able to just try to understand the project in such a short period of time. And we know that Emily is a great feature you guys.
If I may, guys, Chairwoman, I just want to join in on this love fest of like.
Yeah, we might as well.
Everyone who has been a
Yeah.
part of this process, because I know it's a heavy, heavy lift. Of course, Kyle, like, you were doing 2 jobs for many, 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 many months, and I think like we should give him a round of applause. Of course, just the entire team.
Thank you.
Working under the mayor's administration, Emily Freeman and Alyssa, we're glad to steal you from Woonsocket. But yeah, it's incredible work, and the direct impact that this is gonna have on our community and our constituents is something that we should all celebrate. So really grateful for all of your work, and thank you.
And the love wouldn't have been greater without our lovely clerks.
Of course, yeah,
And, you know,
they get the love all the time.
this is Tina's baby, so whatever we do, we don't shake Tina. This is her baby here, this herb committee, she loves it. I mean, I've been with you for a while, you trained me, so. All right, so, yeah, thank you guys for all your work. Now, let's talk about what you're feeling about the budget. What have you seen? Is there any concerns? Is there something that you see that's missing that you want to get an opportunity to talk to our team about? You know, maybe somebody came up to you and said something like, why am I in? So the best way to figure that out is find out through Emily. Why they did not make it, for many, many reasons. There's different things that. Even in my ward, I've had the question of why one organization have already questioned me, whether they made it, and because of your being able to explain where they came short, it was easy for me to say that and not own anything and walk away, you know what I mean, from what she did. So what she needs, Emily has been able to share with me. So is there anything you guys feel?
So what was the main criteria?
Councilmember Gray.
Oh, sorry.
No, you got the floor. It's yours.
What was the main criteria for choosing the ones that, I know most of these names you've seen the whole time, but what was the main criteria and what were you really looking for this year? Because we know that it's gonna be hard and tough and it's only gonna get worse. With your president, but so what can we say? Well, we understand that, because all the businesses that come to me or whatever, they have merit, you know, you can see that they're needed. What would you say to us? You said, no, they didn't make it. Is there a reason why this one didn't make it?
So our focus, for this particular cycle, going into it, knowing that we're facing some extreme uncertainty and likely a cut in funding. Because we are capped by regulation, I would say in particular, public services were uniquely competitive this year. And our focus was really looking at those organizations who sustain basic needs. So ensuring that our community centers would continue to have adequate funding, because they're providing our early child care services, which we know Head Start is potentially looking at cuts right now. They also provide, most of them are providing food pantries, sundries, sort of basic needs to directly within your neighborhoods. We also look to sustain very successful homeless service programs, so programs like the Hand Up that serves, despite the fact they receive either level funding or decreased funding, still manage to serve more and more clients per year. We also did, where we could, seek to sustain and level fund our free clinics that serve our uninsured and underinsured here in Providence, our food pantries, and those basic, I would say, safety net programs were really where we had to focus our attention. And really sort of all of these, we can point to are receiving, are in sort of serious concerns and jeopardy with the federal cuts going on right now. Sojourner House, for example, you know, losing funds for people who are victims of trafficking, or perhaps, you know, our own house because of their documentation status. Project Up and Renew, the Free Clinic. Unfortunately, the list goes on and on for the organizations that are facing cuts. So our goal here was really to try to sustain where we could. And so that did mean that we were unable to add new activities and had to be sort of very restricted in what we could or couldn't fund. Unfortunately, we're getting scarcer resources and organizations that we know are getting hurt parallel to the process, so. Council.
I'm gonna say, that one of the people I spoke to wanted to know what these designs are about and why are they on the list? There's two things that have design in it. Design, people's first thing on the person's mind is art. And right now, I'm worried about eating, a house, roof over my head and all these things.
Are you talking about economic development?
It's other folk, there's down city design, which says it's a learning program. And design Rhode Island. I looked it up, I suggest that other people look it up but you know, it's a valid question. I'm worried about the roof over my head, I'm worried about putting food in my stomach. I'm worried about my child's care, you know, that thing, so. What are we saying to that?
So there are still a limited number of wraparound sort of youth activities within this budget that we work to try to sustain. Most of them are getting cut year over year. So we've tried to keep them in the budget to not sort of wholly eliminate youth services, because as we know, we are preparing to return to local control. We know the sort of support services for our youth are incredibly important. But unfortunately for a lot of them, they did see little haircuts because it was difficult to sustain. And for most of these are the after-school programs, these are college prep programs. And so we would be hesitant to eliminate them entirely, but most have experienced reductions this year, unfortunately.
Thank you, that's kind of what I said, I knew I told them to read up on it, but I just know that all of us probably didn't get smacked in the face about these type of things. Because that's all I'm hearing is, it's more important about the food and deportation is a big thing too. So thank you very much, Emily, I appreciate it.
By the way, he told me to do that, that's why I did that.
You did it?
I woke him up.
Oh, you tell me, okay.
No, he told me. before.
Councilwoman Vargas.
Thank you so much. I have a question because when I see this, we have different colors. This is for the different category.
Yes.
Okay.
So.
Where's the good, where's the bad? That's what I want to know.
So what we have historically done is, we have looked at community centers and general public services separately. Historically in our budget process, we've given preference and special priority to our local neighborhood-based community centers. So that is the blue, and then the blue plus the green equals the total number of public services that came in. And so again, the blue plus the green on the sheet is the most competitive categories where we receive the most proposals. It's also where we unfortunately are capped by regulation. And so this year, because our cap is going down, that actually means that we could fund fewer proposals than we could have last year.
Councilman, Vice
Alright.
Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I do have a couple of things I wanna, like you had indicate, whether we feel that we may want to include or people that may deserve this position, and this opportunity to, one of the opportunities to advocate for it. Along the lines with Design RI under the economic development. Know that last year, and I believe it's last year, the past 2 years, they've been supported through CDBG. Last year, and I did a little bit of a review of my notes from last time. Last year, they received about 190,000 for this one. And then this year, we're awarding another 150,000. While I remember bringing them in, and they had great programming. I believe in 22 was the first time that they got awarded, or maybe before? Before, like 2016, so they've been a long time. And, you know, I'm, you know, coming into new to the chambers here, I also understand that they've had tremendous success. In fact, I believe that if this is in the organization, they just opened their new facility right on Francis Street. Is that the one?
Oh, I think if you're down city design,
Down City Design?
yes,
So that's the other one.
yes. that's
Okay,
the one.
so, well, they have a facility. But I'm confusing the other one with Down City Design right on Francis Street, but they just acquired a building and so forth, right? But in particular, just for this one, is that 150,000, recognizing the fact that under the wording of where the monies are allocated in spurring economic development and needing community and so forth. I would like to put in a sense that somehow we figure out how we can include. I see under the economic development, we have Genesis Center, which is the CHOP program, which is a great program that just opened up their culinary restaurant, and they have, I've been there several times, and their food is great. Hope in Maine, a new facility right there, I believe in your district.
I think that's on the east side.
Well, there are.
No, Westminster,
No, they're.
the new,
And they've got, they're doing stuff everywhere.
you know, but the kitchen itself is gonna be.
That's West End.
And then the Rhode Island Black Business Association, which we've also have supported for numerous years, correct? Yeah. So,
Not as much. This was this was an increase from, you know, because they've been very low budgeted.
yeah,
Some of the ARPA kind of went down too.
Yes.
right, so a lot of the organizations that we've been funding also have received ARPA. Now the ARPA is gone and so forth. I know that the Rhode Island Black Business Association received 80 grand last year, so they're level funding. And so I'd be remiss if I don't advocate, and I know I looked at your conversation in terms of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, who provides the type of business economic and training and so forth, such as the design and Rhode Island Black Business Association. I would advocate in essence that somehow we take that into consideration and put them on, figuring out how we get there. I don't know yet, but I can see where the design RI is getting $150,000.
They topped the list last time.
Councilwoman Grace, I'm sorry.
Right.
But,
Nope, he's still talking.
okay,
Oh.
and then I'll go to you, right?
Yeah. And so for our discussion is in essence, how to consider an organization that spurs economic development too, and to include such as the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, which now also has been housed in Providence also. Now they moved the headquarters down. And also the Councilwoman Harris is in the Chairwoman district. That I think that it merits this conversation of how we can somehow divvy up the design RI allocation of 150 and perhaps doing 75, 75. You know, so that way, in essence, that all three, or all these organizations, at least that are have similar mission in terms of spurring economic development, but also giving an addition for the first time to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce to be awarded and get into that support mechanism for entrepreneurs in the city of Providence. That, and I just wanted to
Okay,
put that
just
forward.
before you, I would support your idea in that, except this year. Because we have said, and we agreed, you and I was so excited to hear that the mayor wasn't taking on new projects right now in the budget because of where we are, uncertain. Uncertain about what's gonna happen, you know, for the future. I can't speak for the Hispanic chambers and why they didn't make the role, only you can do that. But I just wanted to just say, you know, for me, although I feel the same way you do, I
Yeah.
feel like we have to be fair across the board, like we're not taking on new projects. Which in Hispanic chambers have never been in this, as far as I know.
Right, right, they
Yeah, this
have,
is brand new from the first time I've seen them.
I believe so, right? No, this is their first time applying, is that what it was?
Yeah.
They don't-
Agree, in essence that, has been said about no new projects. But correct me if I'm wrong, but, there are, new. I see, I believe, Better Lives Rhode Island Food Pantry, that's a new one. And then, Mathewson Street, have they been?
They've been funded.
So, I think to address the question of.
And then, if I may.
Okay, let him finish, because he got a.
I just
and
had-
maybe she's gonna take the floor right after you.
Yes, because before I lose this,
Go on, that's all right.
is that also, there was a mention about. There's a 5 to 10%. Under the budget, because of what's going on at the national level. That we took into consideration the 5 to 10% that might be coming or not, or may not. If it does happen that we get that increase 5 to 10%, can that be also be considered under? That's my question.
It's a proposal.
Yeah.
So to address who is new in the budget, I think under public services, the only new applicant that we considered was Mathewson Street Church. If you're not familiar, they are filling, what we've sought for a long time is effectively they are operating a downtown drop-in center for our most vulnerable. They serve right now on a volunteer basis, I believe, more than 4,000 meals per year, predominantly to our unhoused constituency. So this is the opportunity to potentially, they're realizing that they, you know, operating solely as a volunteer organization at the capacity they are is not sustainable. So this is proposing to bring on and enable part-time food pantry and meal service staffing there. And sort of recognizing that they are really working with our, you know, most vulnerable unhoused who are typically residing in, you know, in the evenings during encampments or in shelters. And they're providing ministry and also sort of wraparound services that is an organization that does at this point necessitate some type of support. Separately, in terms of economic development, I think it's important to distinguish between the types of activities that are proposed here. Of these organizations, Designed by Rhode Island is the only organization that provides direct pass-through capital to low-income businesses. And so of this 150,000, this is not operating funding for the organization. This is direct grant making to low-income businesses. And we know many of the recipients of these funds, you know, organizations or businesses like Providence Painted Signs, Sproutle, think of Aesthetics Pharmacy have received direct grants through this program. So what is actually sort of going directly to that organization is a fairly nominal amount from that 150. And as you correctly noted, last year we were funding them, and I believe the year prior for multiple awards. We have had to reduce that down to one award, so they are being cut. In terms of the Rhode Island Hispanic Chamber proposal, the bulk of that was for marketing and operational expenses for the organization itself. They have just purchased a new building. They were looking for support with their mortgage. And so the direct service and direct benefit to businesses there was a little bit more tenuous. And so that was why they were not recommended for funding. And also, we not only are not eligible to pay a mortgage for a nonprofit under the CDBG regulations, but it also would not be setting them up for sustainability to take that on and not know if that's something next year that we can continue to support. So that was the rationale there, where we frankly couldn't find enough eligible staff to make that recommendation.
Thank you. I was just reading in a sense, they're, right up here. It says here, that was written. The proposal aims to provide technical assistance, capacity building and business support to low and moderate income, LMI minority business owners in Providence, Rhode Island Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, offer business training, financial literacy, and one-on-one support to help entrepreneur access funding, improving operations and achieve long-term growth through specialized programs, networking, partnership. It has the same sort of descriptive in a sense of like the Rhode Island Black Business Association, like perhaps others, but that's why I wanted to just highlight, and I get in essence that acquire a new facility, we're looking for programming, and I must advocate that there is a need there, and that's it. And so that's why I asked in essence, if and when that, not to say that, and I get it, that in some ways, taking on these projects is a challenge, but it's gonna be a challenge moving forward either way. I mean, even this DBG, and perhaps I had a change of heart of some sort, but maybe perhaps even this DBG may go away. You know, so this is like the last bite of the apple. That's what I'm thinking about it too. But if for some reason this year we get that increase of 5 to 10%, is that money been allocated, or how does that actually get decided to be put forward? Thank you. That's it.
Are you ready to answer? And then I have lots of hands. How is this related to what he's saying?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Okay, because I want to call on Councilman Goncalves.
Yeah, and I guess what I would offer to pro temp is maybe we should also just, and I hope we'll have an opportunity to do this, and I know the chairwoman will welcome this as well. When these organizations come in before us, we'll have a greater opportunity to understand what it is that they're doing in terms of direct services in the community. So I know no one here is making any assumptions about what they're providing, but I think it's probably behooves us to just wait to have those discussions with those organizations, so we can see exactly how that money is going to be spent and utilized, and that'll give us a better picture.
And I believe there was a question about the concept of the pro rata adjustment, which is obviously we are assuming some level of cut, because we are working with a hypothetical budget. So we could, I think this assumed a 5% cut. If the cut is actually 7%, then we're going to, what we recommend is typically building in an equitable pro rata adjustment. I would say I would not anticipate that we will receive more money, and that we were too conservative. It is likely to be the opposite, that we are likely to be cutting what you see here by an equitable percentage.
Can I also, thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and can you clarify this, because I think maybe this is another opportunity that I want council members to think about is, so there can be allocations that are applied to infrastructure projects based on income eligibility. So that could be another potential avenue for an organization like the chamber. I don't know if they're within those income eligibility guidelines or requirements. There's like is there like a map or something that you guys use on the back end to determine that? But, I mean, that could potentially be an option for award allocation, but I don't want to speak out of turn on that. I don't know if you want to speak about that more in depth.
It would need to be a brick and mortar project. Right now, what they have applied to us for is predominantly marketing, mortgage payments, and general operating. And so again,
but if they worked with like their respective council person on like a brick and mortar project that was eligible, that could potentially qualify. Sorry if I opened up a can of worms there, but
No, again, just trying to figure this out, okay. You.
No, it was just in essence, I wanted to get some understanding of what that was. And then it was just more of if that was the application that was submitted just for mortgage payment through the CDBG, then that's a whole different ballgame, right? But the way, in essence, is the description here is different, and that's what I was kind of like waiting for. In essence, because I read it, I was like, wait a minute, That's not what it says here.
Right.
So, and also part of the scoring and that's why. And again, I always say it's a little bit, sometimes, how do we see this? Is it, yeah, it's rated and so forth, but it's also some of it is subjective too. So that's all.
And I think it's important to note the descriptions within here are those descriptions provided directly by the agency. We don't seek to sort of summarize the proposal for them. We use their words exactly. But really fundamentally, when you get into the proposal and you're looking at a line item budget, we have to look at those line items to determine whether the line items that they've proposed are going to be eligible. And it's difficult in a very competitive process like this to sort of renegotiate proposals and not give everyone that same opportunity. And so a proposal like this, while they are offering and intending to operate in a very similar manner to other organizations, that's not what ultimately their budget is showing at this moment where they need support. I think there were intending to go out to bid for consultants to do these services. They don't yet have them on board. The bulk of sort of operating expenses were related to marketing and mortgage payments. So again, as we look at line items and have to sort of vet what's in front of us and what was submitted, we have to look at, you know, what are they actually proposing to use the CDBG for? And if we offer the opportunity to negotiate on ineligible line items to one organization, we really need to offer it to everyone.
So I'm gonna call on Councilwoman Graves, who had her hand up, and then right after Kyle Devine.
No, I was just gonna go back on, what we already talked about. These two things basically do read about the same, and I think, I do remember the design, Rhode Island having two proposals last year, and they both got funded. Was it 150 and 50 or something along those lines?
50 and 40.
Okay, so technically, you didn't really get rid of one of them, you just put that 50 over to the other side, and so you lowered it down to $40.
So they, in recent years, we're receiving 2 awards to us for 2 different programs. We have cut one of those programs.
So you got one of the programs?
Yes.
Okay. I kind of agree with my colleague, maybe, I can't see taking the 75, but maybe, and I agree with you too, Councilman Gonzalez, Councilman Gonzalez, okay. Maybe we can look into trying to take a little bit more off the top and we give the other one something. We have to see, but if we do decide to do that, if this is adding a new thing, is it possible to do that when we said we weren't going to?
Certainly, the budget can be amended to add new activities, but obviously we want to ensure that we're doing that in a fair way and that the proposal that's being added is eligible. Our concern, what was reflected in scoring, was that particular proposal did not have a significant enough level of eligible line items to be considered.
Okay.
And then certainly when we look at those line items, we have to think about the sustainability of
the buildings and whether it's still be
Right.
next year.
Right. But there are other proposals here that have also looked to sort of get our assistance with maintaining their buildings or purchasing a building and we do because of this.
Okay.
Just to say, I'd be remiss not to say this. You gave me outlet to say this, you gave me the inway to say it. This is the mayor's budget, but now this is the council's budget. All right, so it becomes the council's budget. Is it possible for us to do different things in line items? Yes, it is. But with this, if you notice when Alyssa, I'm gonna be Alexis or Alyssa. But I never call you Alyssa. Started out telling us, you know, our responsibility is to look at some of these hardest hit, you know, some of the things with the refugee center, food necessity. So I can see why Madison Church was inclusive, because that's where we are right now. We are at a place where people are unhoused, no place to live. and needing shelter and all the other needs. We also at a place where, with not only the food, but with housing as well. And so those things start to really become priority. I think I was nagging Emily and Mike way before this, like, with what we know that's happening in administration, politically what would be our priority? So I was glad to hear that, the planning department came to the table with the priorities set for us to make conscious decisions on how we look at this budget and how we start to look at priorities and who should be funded in this day and time, refugee center and all of those other agencies. Councilman, you have brought up a point, and I've been serving on this committee, I served for 8 years, 10 years, but served as a chair for 6 years. I think this is okay, and it might be an opportunity for the planning department and this committee to start to look at people who have long-term constantly in the budget. We have, situations where there's other needs, doing the same exact thing. But do what South Side Culture Center did, which was really smart, to give them a break. So because they were in the budget the whole time that I have been serving. And then I asked Emily, they back in the budget, I asked what happened before, they needed a break because they had. And maybe we should see who needs breaks and if there is continued funding coming through here. For this committee to try to think about that, and for the planning department to really know who can afford to be non-funded by the city and who can take that break, I think it's probably the only way that with this limited amount of funding that we see, that we can start to, really try to be fair with everyone. Maybe 3 years on, 3 years off. I don't know. I don't know whether that's possible. It won't be my problem, but it would probably be up to you guys to try to figure that all out in the future. But, are you satisfied with the answer that you received of this planning?
I would say, thank you, as anybody, as a committee work, through your leadership and for us to have these type of dialogue is always positive and trying to advocate for what we feel when we're at the table, at least voice the opinion, making sure we can find a solution. I recognize the leadership of yours and also the committee, but most importantly, also the staff. Since I've served here now, this is my third one, I believe. Yeah, third one, right? Emily has always been very transparent and open, and I have questions here, she answers it and so forth. And I've advocated for other organizations and so forth, as you know, whether we talk privately and so forth or not. But I think the work that we all do is I appreciate it. I think the monies that we get from the federal and land on our table, and then they get distributed to the community and organizations, and we've had several organizations before us, which I think we probably will. It certainly has a lasting impact in our community. Without it, and without your staff, and without Kyle's and the team's work, this will not be possible. So I certainly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for your work and dedication to really seriously looking in this as well. How Delgado? I hope you didn't lose your thought. I know you had.
No, Madam Chair, thank you. Emily, I just wanted to ask questions for clarity. I know you guys were anticipating the percentage possibly decreasing. And I raised a stupid question. When you say pro rata, that just means an equitable decrease amongst everyone. It's not like you're choosing one to put on.
So sort of best practice when you're operating in this situation that HUD sort of puts out to help you navigate is the concept of either doing like contingency projects, which can be a little bit hard. Setting aside a contingency project to an outside organization puts them in a very tough situation to plan for. So it'd be probably if we did something like that, would be an internal, an optional park project, for example. What we have historically done in this situation is an equitable pro rata adjustment across every activity, so every line item. From admin to ward accounts to public service, everybody takes an equitable haircut. And that way, that sort of distributes it's usually pain, distributes the pain equally across the entirety of the budget. And ensures that there's no sort of one winner or loser who's, in or out on the basis of where the actual amount arrives. It makes for a very interesting budget to manage because it's a lot of dollars and cents on everyone's award, but typically what we do is just everyone gets a little bit of a haircut. It's typically a negligible if we spread it out across everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any more questions from this committee for our finance department? None, okay. If there's anyone, I'm just gonna say at the end of this meeting, the closing of this meeting, if there's anyone that you feel that we want to speak to other than the list that we have, and Carol, do you have a list of folks that we are asking to come in that we have reached out to?
On me right now, but I have Tina Brown.
Lovely Tina. Oh my goodness, she was just going over with me.
So right now on the list, we have Design by RI, RIBA, Standard Communities, First Works, and Down City Design has reached out as well to present. I've got Down City Design can come on Tuesday, and I'm still trying to get others for Tuesday as well. Having a little difficulty getting in touch with them or them getting back in touch with me, but I'm working on it. If I don't hear from them by tomorrow, Tuesday will be shorter presentation time. And we'll be pushing a lot of them out to the 23rd. But that's all that I have. I know you did mention Crossroads to me.
Yeah, they are asking for.
Yeah.
That I would like to.
Can we have them come in? That'd be great.
Crossroads.
Well,
Oh, you
that's
just-
the
you
discretion of
definitely
the chair, but yeah.
Oh,
I would
okay,
like to-
very good, yes.
I can
please
reach
do
out
that,
to
and we also-
Crossroads.
Chairwoman, is it also, I would love to hear a little bit more about Mattheson Street Church.
Okay, Neil, so let's bring them in, and definitely that would be good for our
I'll reach out.
records, yeah.
Mm.
Mhm. Okay.
And I'll make sure that somebody comes in from River.
Oh,
Ribbon.
she's
I've got
already
an
checked.
email and a call out to Lisa.
Mhm.
How long will it take?
Yeah,
Tuesday, this week's coming up.
yeah, and I've got to post
Yeah,
it
they come
tomorrow.
around. Yeah,
I've got to post it
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah, I think they were one of the ones too that was on the list.
Yes.
You have, can you just say who else you have tried to make contact, including Crossroads, but.
Crossroads Designed by RI, RIBA, Standard Communities, which
Standard community.
I'm gonna get some contact information from Emily, First Works, Down City Design, and now Mathewson Street Church
Thank you.
and Crossroads. Did I say Crossroads?
Yeah, you said, I think that was one you, yeah.
A point of clarification,
Go ahead, Council.
First Works doesn't appear on the list.
What is it?
No, I mean, under what, under which, where are they? What page?
Which
Is-
one?
Which one?
That First Works is not right here.
Right, it's not on the
Yeah.
recommendation.
But sometimes they do like to come and present before the
I
committee.
think
and
they're
vote on
calling us.
next year.
Oh, okay.
I think they're reaching out to us. I mean,
Yeah.
I've gotten letters. I'm surprised you.
They
didn't
have
reach
reached
out.
out.
Yeah, no, I.
Yeah, you have,
I've
yeah.
They'll
spoken
be
to
coming
them.
on the 23rd.
Yeah, this is every year.
Yeah.
Councilman, so, yeah, thank you for that, we already know, they reached out to us.
And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
believe, Madam Chair, you also wanted to get an update on the home repair program.
Yes, we do, and we
So-
want to know where would that fit, we want it.
We do that Tuesday?
23rd. Tuesday, okay, great, okay. So, yeah,
Okay,
and you guys see the home repairs that we have allocated 300,000, and so we would like to hear.
and there's no finance committee meeting now?
There is a finance meeting on Tuesday. Yes.
No, the more you have, the less.
I know, that's true, well, that's the problem, we can't. Yeah, I think the right people.
Did you want me to hold off on Riba? And do the 23rd of Riba, so you can be there for that?
To be truthful, is that a Tuesday too?
The 23rd is a Wednesday.
I gotta look at the thing, cause Helen did send something out and some of them are Wednesdays.
There are,
Okay,
but that's the 30th.
okay.
Yeah, next, yeah,
Yeah,
the
that's,
22nd and the 24th are gonna be your finance, and we're gonna hold IRP in the middle on the 23rd.
okay. So
I can
next-
move Riba.
So even if we move, we're still having that at 5:30 on Tuesday and finance at 5:30 on Tuesday.
Yeah, we would have to
We'd have
have.
Tuesday, Wednesday,
Yeah, we
Thursday.
have to, yeah, that's what happens with
Mhm.
the finances,
Yeah.
especially we always have.
When we get
people that's on
CDBG and
yeah.
the budget, it gets,
Yes,
Well, I'll
Yeah.
get the information from you. guys.
so hopefully these guys will show up, make sure you guys are here on Tuesday, so we can start, make sure that money goes closer.
Quick questions there.
I'll be happy to share anything with you.
Oh, good, yeah.
And it's recorded too.
Yeah.
So the 23rd will bring them, in, so that way you can, yeah. Okay. So, okay, is there any other thing before this humble body before I
motion to continue.
motion, make a, thank you.
Motion to continue.
A motion to, I have a motion, to continue, right?
Yeah,
And I'm asking for that motion, I got it, that's Councilman, Goncalves, second by Councilman Grace, all in favor? Aye. Motion to continue,
now we can adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Motion been made by Councilman Charter, second by Councilman Grace, all in favor?
Uh,
We are.